Claude Cowork, ChatGPT Health, Google Personal Intelligence, all of this ultimately is about the biggest battle in AI, the battle for your personal context. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today we are talking about Google Gemini's big upgrade that they are calling personal intelligence. Yesterday they announced the very obvious and yet very useful ability to connect Gemini with all the information from other Google apps that you interact with, like Gmail, Photos, Search, YouTube. All, of course, in an effort to help make Gemini more personalized for the individual user. What's interesting is that I believe that at core, you can view almost every single move being made in and around consumer AI as in some way a battle for personal context. So let's look at what I mean. Big news from earlier this week was the announcement of Claude Cowork. It's basically Claude code, but simplified in a way that it's designed for non-technical users. You don't have to deal with the terminal anymore. It lives right inside your Claude desktop app, and it allows you to do the types of things that people have been using Claude Code for outside of coding. Now, the big thing that has made Claude Code and now Claude Cowork powerful is that it has access to a unique set of context, which is the stuff on your desktop. What makes it different than just the Claude chat window or the ChatGPT window or the Gemini window is that instead of having to upload the context that's relevant for any particular thing you're trying to do, you just point it at the relevant part of the computer. Now, of course, in addition to having that better context, Cowork and Claude Code can also do things and interact with your desktop, making it more agentic, but that power comes from its ability to access everything on your computer. And yet, even with that, a lot of the issues that people have discussed when it comes to Claude Cowork over the last few days, which admittedly are more likely having to do with the fact that it was built in the 10 days previous, isn't around connecting other types of context. While Claude Cowork and Claude Code have access to what's on your machine, if you live in the modern world, there's going to be lots of other data sources and places where your data lives that are not just on your desktop. And for that, Claude gives you access to things via what they call connectors. Connectors are ways to link things like Google Drive, obviously powered by the Model Context Protocol. And in the first couple of days after Claude Cowork went live, a lot of people's challenges have been in and around making those connectors work. The point being, in some ways, that we are so hungry for personal context that just having access to our full computers isn't enough. We still need access to everything that exists on the web as well. So, okay, we've repositioned Claude Cowork and Claude Code as powerful because of the way they give you unique access to your desktop context. How are the other things that AI companies are launching right now also in some way about this battle for personal context? I would argue that when it comes to ChatGPT, a huge anchor to their strategy has always been to try to leverage the fact that because ChatGPT was many people's default, it has a huge amount of personal context in the form of past chats. And when you view everything in the battle for personal context, all of a sudden, OpenAI's strategy to add more and more applications all of the time with an incredible shipping velocity starts to make a little more sense. They are trying with each new app release to get more personal context, which makes the switching costs of leaving and going to another AI service more and more costly in terms of that lost context. For months now, folks have been talking about how memory is the next big moat, and I think that that's dead on. Now, bringing it back to things that have been released recently, so far from OpenAI, the biggest product that we've got in January is the introduction of ChatGPT Health. It's a dedicated health experience inside the app whose entire purpose is to collect a huge amount of personal health context and organize it in a single place that makes it accessible to the AI. In their announcement post, they wrote, "Today, health information is often scattered across portals, apps, wearables, PDFs, and medical notes, so it's hard to see the full picture, and people are left to navigate a complex healthcare system on their own." Now, as they point out, people are already using ChatGPT to help navigate all this, but now they're allowing you to port all of that context in. And they are really trying to pull that health context from everywhere it lives. Just a few days later, we got Anthropic's answer to that in their Claude for Healthcare. A big part of that Claude for Healthcare announcement was about connecting personal health data. The announcement came with a bunch of new connectors rolling out specifically for that type of personal context. I would even argue that Grok's big play, outside of having Elon for fundraising and for building the biggest supercomputers in the world, is once again around personal context. The unique personal context that Grok has access to is everything that happens in and around X/Twitter, which for those of you who aren't on X/Twitter might not seem like it matters, but for those of us who are and who have been for a very long time, is a very significant part of personal context. Okay, so now you're starting to see all of these different moves through the lens of personal context, but Google's latest announcement is in some ways the clearest yet. Yesterday, CEO Sundar Pichai tweeted, "Answering a top request from our users, we're introducing personal intelligence in the Gemini app. You can now securely connect to Google Apps for an even more helpful experience. Personal intelligence combines two core strengths: reasoning across complex sources and retrieving specific details, e.g. from an email or photo, to provide uniquely tailored answers. It's built with privacy at the center, and you choose exactly which apps to connect, with the connected app settings off by default. Some of the examples that Google gives about how this might be useful are really concentrated on day-to-day life. This is not about work. In their announcement thread, they wrote, "Ever need to buy parts for your car but don't have the info handy? Ask Gemini to recommend tires for my car. By referencing connected apps like Gmail and Photos, it can understand your car's make and model and even the types of trips you take, to give recommendations of tires and info like your license plate number to make your visit to the auto shop go more smoothly. When a user asks for recommendations around travel, instead of it being generic lists, the specific travel dates that can be found in Gmail, plus other evidence like in their example, your love for nature photography found in Google Photos, lead to more personalized recommendations." People's first instinct was that this was a big deal and that in many ways it was inevitable but kind of a killing blow play from Google. AI YouTuber Matthew Berman writes, "Gemini will now be my daily driver AI for the next few weeks, all because of personal intelligence. Google would have never allowed this kind of feature to release just 18 months ago. They would have been too nervous, too much red tape. But now they got out of their own way and allowed users to choose. Google is so well positioned to win AI. Apple, where you at?" Akash Gupta writes, "Google just revealed the AI moat nobody can replicate. Every AI company is racing to build memory and personalization. Google connects to a decade of your Gmail threads, every photo you've ever taken, your complete YouTube watch history, and every search query you've made since 2005. The question for every other AI company, how do you compete on personalization when your competitor has the user's entire digital life and you're starting from a blank conversation?" I think there are a couple answers to this. First of all, I do think it's important to note that while it does seem obvious that this would make AI better for a variety of use cases, I don't think we yet have enough evidence to know exactly the full complexity of the way that AI gets used over time. To be clear, I am far from the average consumer and user of AI. And yet, I do represent a type of user of AI, and I couldn't care less about this if I tried. For my work-related use cases, I care about the quality of AI strategic thinking, its ability to process and articulate multiple angles around the same decisions, how good it is at accessing other types of data, how good it is at analyzing types of data I give it access to, how good it is at building the things that I need. There's not a universe in which I'm switching models because I can get better travel recommendations or need a shortcut way to figure out what my license plate is. And to be clear, this is not at all a knock on these new features from Google, nor an argument that I'm anywhere near the normal consumer. My point is solely that when it comes to these big, bold claims that Gemini is killing everyone because of this, I think there's going to be a lot of types of different AI users, all of whom have different types of priorities. Still, let's assume that this type of personalization is really valuable for many, if not most consumers. Well, another path is to ask who else has access to that data, which brings us back to Matthew Berman's question, Apple, where you at? When Apple announced Apple Intelligence way back when, it was all with this same argument. The pitch was simple, helpful day-to-day use cases that took advantage of the context that Apple had about you because it powers all of your devices. Now, obviously, it has not delivered on that promise. One of the big takeaways after Google I/O last year, in fact, was that Google had basically shipped everything that Apple's AI wanted to do. And now, of course, Gemini is going to actually power Apple Intelligence. And yet, Apple still does have an enormous amount of personal context that others don't have. Google, for example, does not have your iMessages. And for iPhone users, iMessages tend to represent dozens of gigabytes of personal context that is extraordinarily valuable. And frankly, when it comes to a personal level, more valuable for many use cases than the stuff that's in your Gmail. Apple also has something else, ownership of devices that operate in the physical world. And I think when you start to view everything through the lens of this battle for personal context, OpenAI's hardware decisions start to make a little more sense. Hardware allows them to go after a very specific type of personal context, which is the personal context of how you interact in the physical world. One thing that Apple did last year that did capture people's attention was the new live translation feature they announced for Apple AirPods. Unlike many other form factors for AI devices, AirPods are something we already interact with. It's not at all weird or abnormal to talk to someone who has AirPods in. And so to the extent that AirPods can become a starting point for AI to interact with your physical experience, it could unlock a whole additional set of that personal context. This is why it wasn't all that surprising when we found out that it seems like at least one of the form factors that OpenAI and Johnny Ive are exploring is something at least tangentially related to an AirPod. Make no mistake about it, Google giving Gemini access to all of this information is a major inflection point and a major upgrade in their positioning when it comes to the consumer AI race. But it's still early innings and a lot of battles yet to be fought, and a lot of personal context that still needs to be organized. For now, though, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace